Super important thing to do with your publication. Maybe the most important thing you can do to build up your email list and drive more traffic. But what I see happen is these free registrations show up on the paid subscribe page.
Yep.
That's not good. Your subscribe page should be paid.
Welcome to the Paywall Podcast, where we discuss paywalls and paywall strategies for news and magazine publishers. This episode of the Paywall Podcast is brought to you by Leaky Paywall. Leaky Paywall is the most flexible WordPress subscription platform. Find out more at leakypaywall.com. And now for today's episode.
All right. Today we're going to talk about 10 reasons why your subscription revenue is underperforming. You always have to pick a number, right? 10 reasons, 7 ways, this and that. But we are going to cover, I'd say, at least 10 reasons why your subscription revenue is not doing what it needs to do. It may be doing okay, but there's always opportunities to improve things. And essentially, we scour the publisher websites that we work with, and we look for red flags that are easy to fix. We're going to talk a lot about kind of the low-hanging fruit of improving things to improve conversions. And one of the things that we absolutely find in the digital marketing world is when you make an improvement to your website, it affects the behavior of the visitor. And that certainly translates to paid subscriptions. So welcome, Tyler. How are you?
Hello. Good.
Awesome. I know you've seen some underperforming subscription sites in your time, and I have a list here as well, and we're gonna dive into it. First thing I want to just jump on is this wasn't even going to be on the list, but I happen to browse by ArtNet. This is an art-based subscription site, and I'll just say right off the bat, I bet you could even tell me what's wrong with this site with just looking at the homepage. How do you subscribe?
Yeah, I see. Very difficult to find the button for that. If
there's no button, so look at your homepage. If there's no button that says subscribe on it, then please add that quickly. Make sure it's a button, and the best,
not just a link.
Yeah, not just a link. Make sure it's actual visual button, because visual buttons convert higher than text links. Typically, what we help publishers do is, let's say your subscribe is a link in your menu, is you can actually just with a little CSS fill in the color behind that link and make it look like a button, so it pops up and it gives you a little branding opportunity to use one of your colors in that button. So that's how you do it. Okay. There's one. We just knocked one right off. Okay. I'm going to pull up my list here. Okay, the next one we're looking at. We talk a lot about the free registration. That is essentially getting folks to register with an email and a password in exchange for getting access to the next article and getting on the newsletter. Super important thing to do with your publication. Maybe the most important thing you can do to build up your email list and drive more traffic. But what I see happen is these free registrations show up on the paid subscribe page.
Yep.
That's not good. Your subscribe page should be paid options. That is when the person is ready to subscribe, ready to pull out their credit card or whatever and pay you for access to your content, to your stuff. The one we're looking at has a free trial of $0. That's a little better because ultimately that does convert to a paid subscription, but it's still a little confusing when it's tied in with the annual card and the monthly card. Probably should be maybe just the single card with the free trial and make it an annual and test that. But yeah, free registration on because you go to the subscribe page, right? And it's okay, I'm going to subscribe. And then you see this free option.
It gives you an out.
Right.
You're like, I was going to pay. $60 a year, but you've got this free plan. Sure, I'll forget about your site in 14 days.
Exactly. Exactly. The iron is hot, and then you got to strike.
Yeah.
If somebody registers for free, and then all of a sudden they get the next article, they may not even get to more articles and get prompted. Okay, so that's another one. All right, next, let's hop over to the next one. Okay, Tyler, what's the problem with Charleston Magazine? What do you see here?
Well, I see multiple plan options. I see a lot of stuff I have to enter, a lot of information, which is typically not a great thing in terms of friction.
Let's talk about that, because that's one on the list. Too many checkout fields.
Yeah. So oftentimes publishers, especially print publishers, will treat their digital plans as though they are their print plans. And what I mean by that is they'll have a shipping field, they'll have all the billing fields, like just way too many things that you have to go through to check out. So think Netflix, think Hulu, credit card, email, boom, just get through the checkout quick.
Right.
And so, yeah, more friction equals less conversions on that side.
Yeah. Every single additional field that you make somebody fill out is a reason to abandon the process. It's like people run out of time, they get frustrated. We just don't have the patience for anything anymore. So you're on this particular checkout field, you're getting asked to fill out your title.
Yeah.
And your company.
Yeah. It's too much.
And why?
Doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, I can understand from a marketing perspective, maybe they're going to target, I don't know, different companies, but honestly, you should reduce this down to a name, email address, credit card, and be done. But I guess in their case, is this a print publication?
Yeah, they have both digital and print. This happens to be a print checkout. So you definitely need a bunch of fields on here, but you certainly don't need title, and you certainly don't need company.
Right. Yeah, it could be reduced.
Phone number, sure. If it's print, you're probably going to need to be able to reach the person. But look at your checkout and make sure you don't have too many fields, because it will absolutely impact your conversion. I've seen this same checkout page for digital only subscriptions.
For sure, all the time.
Which is not great. What you just said is, why do I need like all the physical address stuff when it's just a digital subscription?
Yeah.
I will also suggest make sure you have Apple Pay available and Google Pay on checkout. If you're using Stripe, those are built in. You can just literally turn them on and people can pay you via Apple and Google Pay and any other payment methods.
Yeah, Link and others are great because they'll auto-populate those credit card numbers from customers that use Stripe for other services. So it's the same with Google and Apple Pay. Yeah, you definitely want to turn those on to bump up those conversions, even if it's 2 or 3 or 5%. It'll help.
Now, Link is Stripe's new way to essentially save your credit card. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah. Yep. Turn on Link. You may think, oh, it's just another thing to register for, but Stripe has gotten so popular and Link is now getting so popular, and we're all seeing it more and more that it's becoming normalized. And then of course we finally say, oh, I might as well just say my credit card information here and make the checkout quicker next time.
Yeah, because it does apply to virtually every vendor on planet Earth that's using Stripe. So you'll be able to possibly use it at Target and other major retailers that use Stripe as their online checkout.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's the checkout fields. Okay, there's one more thing on here that's driving me totally insane, which will kill your conversions and can do it fairly dramatically.
Is it the redirect off of the site?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you look up here, that there is a subdomain. So you're essentially not on the publisher's website anymore. You are now on a subdomain checking out. And especially the younger generations are aware of things shifting like that. So if I'm on the site and all of a sudden I end up on a different payment site, that throws up a little bit of a flag as far as, is this secure? Is this really, am I getting hijacked? Is this really where I'm going? Make sure your checkout is on your own domain. Most systems we work with today can let you do that, and you need to do that. I think there are a few systems that have options where you can just send folks off to a different subdomain and pay. And I mean, at the very least, make sure that it's instead of being like a whole new, brand new domain that you're going to, make it a subdomain off of your main website URL. So that at least that would be better. Okay. All right. Cooking on. I have no idea. I haven't numbered these, but we'll get to 10, I promise. Okay. Back to the free registration thing. How about not having a free registration?
Yep.
We got to just throw that in there. We already
Yeah.
talked about it, but it's on my list. I just want to make sure. If you don't have a way to capture an email address via a registration wall, which is sometimes called, you're absolutely losing out on paid conversions. Just to repeat, because it's so super important, your registration wall should trigger quickly after one article. Maybe one article's free, then there's your registration wall, you capture an email and a password, and then that allows that reader to register and view the next article. That sends your email to your email service provider, MailChimp or whatnot, and now you have a free registered reader. It's a higher quality email address because they've chosen a password. They're on your newsletter, and your newsletter is doing its job of sending them back to your website to get upgrade messaging. If you don't capture that email early and you never put them on your newsletter, there's no way to communicate with that person maybe ever again.
Yeah. And even if you do have their email address and you do send out a newsletter to people, and they're less likely to open that if they know that you've got this hard paywall up and they're expired. They're like, I can't see this anyway, so why bother? So that free registration is key. I was just talking to a publisher about this yesterday. Just they don't have a free registration and no one is opening the email. I wonder why. So getting that free registration up and running and giving some access to your site is important, not only just for growing your newsletter list, but for actually getting people to open your newsletter to begin with.
Right. Yeah. And the newsletter itself has value as well. So you want to message in the free registration portion that you'll get access, that the next story is free, and you'll get the newsletter. And those two value points will get folks to register. Works like crazy. Speaking of newsletter, let's go on to the next one. So I don't know if you run into this, but I run into this pretty regularly. I'll ask a publisher how frequently they send their newsletter. And if it's a magazine publisher or maybe a specialty niche publisher, issue-based publisher, a lot of times I'll get, I think last week I talked to somebody who was sending a newsletter once every 2 weeks. I've talked to publishers who send newsletters like once a week. Some publishers, especially issue-based, will pack all, 15 or 20 of their articles into a single newsletter and send it out in one shot, which completely overwhelms the reader. There's no way that they can get through all those articles. And we usually end up in a discussion about cadence, like how frequently should you send out your newsletter? And what I usually say is send it out every minute of the day if you can, tongue in cheek. Send it out as frequently as you can stand, really. We see publishers go from once a week to twice a week and breaking up their content. And if you send 1 or 2 articles in a newsletter, great. So be it. When an article's ready to go, send it. There's no reason to hold it back. People want content right away. They're hungry for your content. That's why they subscribe to your newsletter.
Yeah, yeah. And we work with some really small, like solopreneur publishers, and a small town will have maybe one piece of content or two pieces of content a week. And so as soon as they have a new article, it shoots out as a newsletter. Like that's value for the reader. That's fresh content, it's local, and it's fine. It doesn't have to be 16 pieces of content. Less is better in the newsletter.
Yeah,
Sending.
that's right. Less is better. Keep in mind, you only have on average, and this has been studied, about 20 minutes of attention span when you land in someone's inbox, which means if you have a few articles land and one of the articles looks interesting, which is many times it's like you just scan it and say, okay, that's interesting, but you're not going to click on anything. But sometimes you'll see something like, oh, I got to read that. And you click it and you go to the site and you may or may not get access to that article. You may then, while you're in the groove, read another article because you're just in the groove of reading. But you get about 20 minutes max. So if you're sending 10, 15, 20 articles out, forget it. You're not going to, that 20 minutes gets eaten up really quickly. And the more frequently you send the newsletter out, the more traffic back to your site, the more times the upgrade message pops up, and that increases your conversion rate. So go look at your newsletter cadence. In fact, the whole newsletter strategy portion of this is the most critical part of your subscription funnel, I would say, because it is typically it's your only direct sales channel for subscriptions, because the email you're pushing email into someone's mailbox. You're not counting and waiting for them to maybe have a thought about something and search for it in Google or go to your website. It's direct marketing and it works. All right, newsletter cadence. All right, what's next? Let me just hit oh, I bet you know what this one's about.
Oh boy. Yeah, so if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll notice we're on a subscribe page of a publisher, and we're about to subscribe, and a pop-up occurs asking for an email address. Big red flag.
Yeah. If someone actually clicks your subscribe page and they're thinking about subscribing, last thing you want to do is annoy them with a pop-up.
Yeah.
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 Keep on all your critical pages, just remove the pop-ups. We see it all the time. I don't know if you see it all the time. I still see it all the time. You get interrupted.
Yeah, I see pop-ups. I see publishers that have ads. I see just all kinds of content that should not be on the subscribe page. So if anything, you want to reduce your headers or your footers, like kind of everything fades into the background and we're focused on subscribing. Like, here are my options, and off you go. And the same goes for when they click that subscribe button. You don't want ads, you don't want pop-ups, you don't want special offers, coupon codes. You don't need any of that. Just let this be a stripped down version of your site.
That's very important. So let me get rid of this pop-up here. So when you say stripped down version, I concur. Really, you should just remove your navigation, just have your brand logo, have your subscription options, and that's it. No pop-ups, no nothing. You really need to tighten the choices, the funnel, and not interrupt them with anything.
Yeah.
And that does convert better. And sometimes if you look at other websites that sell subscriptions, when you get to a subscription page, you may notice that the menu disappears, that any sidebar that's on the site disappears. Everything gets very focused, laser focused. And that's the same for like registration pages where you're asking to start typing in your data to subscribe. I would even argue that when you have like the free registration set up, be really careful about pop-ups on article pages. What you want is that email address, because the email address is good for increasing your traffic to the site. It's good for sponsors for advertising. Sponsors they like big email lists. So if you really focus on building that email address, your advertising revenue takes care of itself. They're more interested in your email list than they are to be on your website because it's direct marketing. Okay. All right. I'm gonna pick on this website just a little bit more. What's another thing you might say is a little bit funky?
So you certainly don't want a buffet at your subscribe page. So we don't need 6 options, 9 options. More options is not good for the consumer in this regard. So if possible, make it just 1 or 2. 3 is okay, but fewer is better in the conversion arena for your subscribers.
Yeah, 2. Yeah, you get analysis paralysis. So we're looking at 6 subscription cards here, a mix of digital and print, and then a totally different track coach array of content. And I'm looking at this, and if I want to subscribe, I really got to do some math here, figure out what is going on, and what do I really want to subscribe to. In this case, I'd say if you're a print publisher, things do get complicated. But I say shoot for 2 cards, digital and print and digital as your 2 options. And then I make them annual. Draw the line, make them annual recurring. The free registration kind of takes care of let's try you out and get your newsletter and limited access. And then when folks are ready to commit, they'll try you for a year. Track coach, this is a 3rd one. That would probably be the 3rd card here because it's a completely different audience and a different publication. Going from 6 cards to 3 cards, I think would be super helpful here.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's see what else we got here. All right. Another one. Too many free views. This one happens a lot.
Yep.
Still, you go to a site and we're always looking at how paywalls are set up because that's what we do. So you go to a site, you're clicking around and it's like, where's the subscription prompt?
Yeah.
5 articles, and then they say pay. Oh boy, too many free articles. You're going to lose the person. The average, look at your Google Analytics or your analytics and see what the average visitor, see how many pages of content the average visitor consumes, and you will see the number 1.5 to 1.8 pages of content on average, which means that most visitors will look at 2 articles. Some will look at just 1. Most will look at 2. That means on that second article, you need to trigger that free registration. You go to 5 articles. It's like I read an article. Maybe I'll read 2. Okay, now I'm reading 2. I'm gone. That's it. And they're gone forever, maybe. So you have no way to engage that reader.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'd say the same advice on the other side of this. So on the front end, yes, 5's too many, 10's too many. But when they sign up for free, you certainly don't want to make the same mistake and give them 5 to 10 free articles per month on that side of the equation either. You're really slowing down the funnel for folks to get into that paid part of the system. And so they may never get there with that large of a buffet, another buffet of that's the title of this podcast. They may never get there. And so you've got to tighten it down and look at those analytics and know that they're not going to get to 2 pieces of content. It's just how people consume. Yeah. Don't be afraid of tightening the paywall down or the view restriction down to 1 free view and then 1 free view on the free registration.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. And if you are afraid, that's okay too. Like, we work with publishers that don't have paywalls that are coming in and it's the first time setting up a paywall. It's super nerve-wracking. And that's okay. You can start generous, giving away a few too many articles on either side of the free registration. But just keep in mind that what you're going to learn is what's really important, and that people are not converting. And then you can just go in and change it and really tighten it up to say one free article. And then you have to register, you get one more. And that's it. And then you have to upgrade and pay to get full access. That's a pretty successful setup for most paywalls. And you don't have to have that from the start, but I'd say within 30 days, you're going to learn a lot and you're going to realize that, yeah, we need to capture more free registered readers and just tighten things up.
Yeah. And with each reduction of views, you're going to see conversion rates increase. So if you're doing it on an incremental basis, you'll notice that right away.
Yeah. So look at how many free views you're actually giving. In fact, go through your own subscription system and subscribe and just write down all the hurdles you had to jump through to get there and fix those hurdles. Okay. This one's really important. Slow website. See it a lot. You come to a site, you click on an article, it takes a little bit to load, you click on the next one, it's a little laggy. And a lot of things can impact site speed, certainly traffic. It's just the whatever rogue plugins or software, whatever advertising networks. You're feeding in a million advertising networks, especially if you're a food blogger. And what does that do to Google, Tyler? What does Google think about slow websites?
They're not too pleased with slow websites. Not that we should be here to please Google. We talk about that quite often because that's what your free registration will become. Your newsletter list, that's a whole different conversation. But yes, you need a fast site. You need a good host, a good WordPress host. You need a lean setup. Don't litter your site with advertising to make $100 in Google ads when they're just completely wrecking your site and slowing things down.
Right.
Think about where the focus is here. The focus is growing your newsletter list, growing your paid subscribers. And to do that, you need a fast, optimized site. So
it's ironic that I just thought of it. It's ironic that Google promotes a service that slows down your website, and yet they consider it important that you have a fast website in order to rank in search.
Yeah, we see it all the time with publishers that run Google ads. They're a big culprit on site speed. Like your site loads fast, and then there's like this hang up on other external third-party systems that are waiting to load.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But probably the most important thing, the other important thing is conversions. So people we get frustrated easily. We're super impatient, right? So if you have to wait for things to load, why would I want to pay a website money for something that's frustrating me? Right. So conversion. So if your site is super snappy and it's a nice experience and I like the content, the site, everything loads quick, looks good on mobile, all that good stuff. Yeah. Now my chances of paying for access go up for sure. Next one is, we did pop-ups, bulk subscriptions. This one is something that I would say is maybe a phase 2 for newer publishers, but for veteran publishers, if you're in the local news space, that means like a family plan, maybe for a little bit more money, you have to sell 5 seats. For most publishers, not all, but most publishers will serve groups of subscribers, and just putting your sort of group subscription hat on and thinking, what groups of readers would like access? Maybe it's a business, maybe it's government, maybe it's a school, library, maybe it's Panera Bread for a news site that wants to provide access on location. So things like that. There are lots of opportunities for bulk sales. And again, that's a little more in the advanced department, but if you haven't thought about it, it's something I'm just planting the seed for you. Okay. Anything else you can think about that? I think we've hit 10.
Yeah, there's at least 110 that we can probably go through.
Yeah. All right, cool. We'll get out of your way then. Get on with your day. We're done. Yeah, there's some low hanging fruit there. Take a look at your site. You'll be happy you did. And you'll see your subscriptions go. Please get in touch. Pete at zine101.com. If you have any questions, happy to chat strategy anytime. Thanks, Tyler. Catch you
Yeah.
later.
Thanks for listening to the Paywall Podcast. If you'd like to get in touch to discuss subscription strategy, go to leakypaywall.com. See you next time.